I used to have this secret ritual, a daily alarm on my phone that buzzed at 11:15 a.m. sharp. The title? Please don't cry in the office bathroom, seriously. Because around that time, like clockwork, my ex's voice would just pop into my head. It wasn't a gentle whisper, it was a full-blown broadcast, telling me I was too much and not enough, all at the same time. It was a cruel, customized highlight reel of every cutting comment, every dismissive glance, every time he made me feel like I was fundamentally flawed. If your brain also has this irritating habit of handing you a mean-spirited, ex-designed greatest hits album of unkindness, then please, stay with me. Because today, I don't just silence that alarm, I've completely deleted it. And I'm going to show you exactly how I finally pressed uninstall on those voices and built a life where I feel genuinely loved and safe again. It's a journey, not a destination, but trust me, it's worth every step. When most people hear the phrase, toxic relationship, they often picture the dramatic stuff, right? Yelling matches, slammed doors, maybe a broken plate or two. And while those are absolutely valid forms of toxicity, mine was far more insidious. It was the kind that whispered. My relationship didn't explode, it eroded. Slowly, quietly, it chipped away at everything I thought I knew about myself. It whispered that my opinions, while cute, were ultimately naive and unrealistic, best kept to myself if I wanted to be taken seriously. It whispered that my anxiety, a genuine struggle I was trying to manage, wasn't something to be supported but rather an exhausting burden that no one else would ever tolerate. Over 5 agonizing years, those whispers weren't just fleeting thoughts. They stacked up, brick by brick, until they formed an impenetrable wall. A wall not just between me and him, but between me and myself. I stopped trusting my gut, my instincts, my own perception of reality. Before dates, even just casual dinners with friends, I'd check myself in the mirror, then check again, sometimes a third time. Was my skirt really too short? Did it make me look desperate, just like he'd once casually remarked? The comments, delivered with a shrug or a sigh, burrowed deep. I found myself apologizing for the most basic human needs, for wanting a glass of water, for initiating intimacy, for simply not liking the overpowering smell of his cologne that clung to every fabric in our apartment. My social life, once vibrant, withered under the constant pressure. Friends, bless their hearts, slowly stopped inviting me to game night or brunch. Why? Because I'd either cancel last minute, paralyzed by an unspoken fear of his disapproval, or I'd show up and spend the entire evening glued to my phone, a frantic knot in my stomach, terrified he'd text and I wouldn't reply within 30 seconds flat. My entire existence became a performance, a constant calibration to avoid his subtle displeasure. I lost my laugh, my spark, my sense of easy joy. I was a shadow, perpetually bracing for the next whisper, the next subtle jab that would confirm his narrative. That I was, indeed, too much and not enough for anyone to truly love. The person looking back at me from the mirror was a stranger, hollowed out and constantly on edge, living in a world defined by someone else's narrow expectations. It was a slow, suffocating fade, and I didn't even realize how much air I'd lost until I was almost completely gone. You'd think, after years of that slow burn erosion, the breaking point would be something monumental, right? A cinematic blow-up, a dramatic confrontation, a mic drop moment worthy of a movie script. But no, the snap, for me, didn't come from a hurricane, it came from a yogurt cup. A perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning, just like any other. He flung the fridge door open with his usual dramatic flair, his eyes scanning the contents. He spotted my peach yogurt, sitting innocently on the shelf, and let out this profound, exasperated sigh. "You know I hate peaches," he said, as if I'd committed a cardinal sin. "Why do you always forget what matters to me?" And in that moment, something microscopic, yet utterly seismic, shifted inside me. I stood there, staring at the peach yogurt, and a wave of pure, unadulterated absurdity washed over me. I walked outside, the morning air feeling strangely crisp, and sat down on the cold curb, still clutching my half-eaten toast. I realized, with a horrifying clarity, that I was physically bracing myself for criticism. Over fermented fruit. Over a tiny, insignificant choice that had absolutely no bearing on his life. My body was coiled, ready to deflect, to apologize, to somehow justify my preference for peach over, I don't know, strawberry. That's when a quiet, steady voice, barely a whisper itself, broke through the cacophony of his past criticisms and my own self-doubt. It was so clear, so calm, it felt like my last healthy brain cell finally staging a rebellion. It said, simply, girl, you gotta go. Not, you should think about leaving, or, maybe this isn't healthy. Just, you gotta go. And in that instant, the decision was made. The absurdity of the peach yogurt had finally, unequivocally, outweighed the fear of being alone. So I left. It wasn't graceful, it wasn't planned, and it certainly wasn't easy. I packed a single duffel bag, told him I needed space, which was true, I needed an entire galaxy of it, and walked out the door. For 3 weeks, I couch surfed, crashing on friends' sofas, feeling like a refugee in my own life, but also, surprisingly, lighter. Then, I found it, a tiny studio apartment, the size of a shoebox, with a window overlooking a brick wall. I signed the lease, bought a cheap air mattress, and the first night I spent there, utterly alone, surrounded by the echoes of my own breath, I felt like an astronaut who had just landed on planet Silence. It was vast, it was daunting, and it was the most profoundly liberating silence I had ever experienced. There was no one to sigh at my yogurt, no one to judge my outfit, no one to demand a 30-second text reply. Just me, and the quiet hum of a new beginning. Now, here's the thing nobody posts on those inspirational quote graphics, the ones with sunsets and perfectly filtered coffee cups. Leaving is step 1. Healing? That's steps 2 through infinity, and it's rarely pretty. I entered my next situationship, and yes, I put that in air quotes because it was definitely not a relationship, dragging a U-Haul of unopened baggage behind me. We're talking industrial-sized boxes labeled trust issues, hypervigilance, self-worth ? And catastrophic thinking. So, this new guy, let's call him Mark, would text something perfectly innocent, like, can't wait to see you tonight, and instead of feeling excited, my brain would immediately spiral. Why is he so eager? What's he hiding? Is this a trap? Is he love bombing me before the inevitable betrayal? My fingers would hover over the keyboard, analyzing every word, every emoji. I kept score, meticulously, of every minute he took to reply. If it was less than 5, he was clearly desperate. If it was more than 15, he was obviously losing interest, probably talking to someone else. There was no middle ground, no healthy interpretation. One evening, he casually mentioned, "Hey, I'm grabbing drinks with coworkers after work," and I swear, my pupils practically turned into little CSI magnifying glasses. My internal monologue went full detective mode. Coworkers? Which ones? Male or female? Is he trying to impress someone? Is this his escape route? I spent the next 3 hours convinced he was secretly plotting his vanishing act, and I had to track his every move, his every word, to prevent it. I was so consumed by the fear of being abandoned again, so desperate to control a narrative that wasn't even mine, that I completely missed the actual, normal human being in front of me. Predictably, I drove him away. My anxiety, my constant need for reassurance, my inability to just be, suffocated whatever potential we had. That night, I found myself sobbing on my kitchen floor at 2 a.m., eating gluten-free crackers straight from the box because, let's be real, healing is not a Pinterest moment. It's messy, it's ugly, and sometimes it tastes like stale crackers and tears. I felt utterly, hopelessly broken. In a moment of raw desperation, I Googled, "Am I broken forever?" and tumbled headfirst down a Reddit rabbit hole. Attachment theory, trauma bonds, gaslighting, narcissistic abuse, the terms blurred together. My phone practically burned my cheek from the heat of my frantic scrolling, but amidst the despair, there was also a tiny flicker of recognition. Other people felt this. Other people understood this specific, soul-crushing brand of insecurity. It was a small comfort, but it was a comfort nonetheless, a tiny crack in the wall I'd built around myself, hinting that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one trying to navigate this unhealed middle. My bank account, at this point, was begging for mercy, but I realized something profound. Investing in therapy, even with its hefty price tag, was ultimately cheaper than replacing every phone screen I'd cracked in an anxious rage, or paying for all the takeout I'd stress-eaten. Desperate for a different path, I finally took the plunge and found a trauma-informed counselor. She specialized in relationship PTSD, which, frankly, I didn't even know was a thing until she said it. Just hearing that term, relationship PTSD, was a revelation. It validated so much of what I'd been feeling, the hypervigilance, the flashbacks, the constant state of fight or flight, that I'd previously dismissed as just me being crazy. My first homework assignment? A feelings wheel. I rolled my eyes so hard I think they almost got stuck. A laminated circle with cartoon faces? This was going to fix my existential dread? But then, as I tried to identify what I was feeling, I broke down crying again. Why? Because worthless wasn't even on the wheel. Apparently, my go-to, default emotion was too extreme, too all-consuming, for a simple laminated circle. That was my first real clue. My emotional vocabulary was incredibly limited, heavily skewed by years of invalidation. My therapist gently guided me, helping me differentiate between sad, disappointed, frustrated, and yes, worthless. It was like learning a new language, one that allowed me to articulate the nuances of my internal world instead of just defaulting to a single, crushing label. Week by week, we chipped away at the old narratives. We practiced cognitive reappraisal. Instead of the automatic, catastrophic thought, he's late, therefore he's cheating and abandoning me, I learned to consciously reframe it. I'd write down the anxiety-driven thought, then challenge it, he's late, therefore, traffic. Or maybe his meeting ran over. Or he stopped for coffee. It sounds ridiculously simple, almost silly, but that deliberate pause, that forced search for alternative explanations, slowly started to rewire my brain. It taught me that my initial thoughts were hypotheses, not unshakable verdicts. Grounding exercises became my lifeline. When a flashback hit, triggered by a slammed door or a certain tone of voice, I'd feel that familiar cold dread creep up my spine. My therapist taught me to focus on my 5 senses. What could I see, hear, smell, taste, touch? Feeling the texture of my socks on my toes, the cool metal of my water bottle, the scent of my coffee. These small anchors pulled me back from the edge, reminding me I was here, now, safe. I also started journaling letters to my ex. Long, rambling, furious, heartbroken letters that I never, ever sent. And that was the point. My therapist explained that closure is an inside job. It wasn't about him acknowledging my pain or apologizing. It was about me processing it, articulating it, and then releasing it. Each letter was a step towards reclaiming my narrative, towards giving voice to the silenced parts of myself. And on my mirror, I kept a sticky note. It started as a defiant declaration: your thoughts are hypotheses, not verdicts. It was corny, yes, but it was a vast improvement over the previous post-it, which had simply read, "You're lucky anyone tolerates you." The sticky note was a constant, gentle reminder that I had agency over my own mind. Outside the therapy room, I started building rituals. Small, sacred moments just for me. Sunday mornings at the farmer's market, wandering aimlessly, choosing colorful produce without consulting anyone. Solo lattes at a quiet cafe, savoring the warmth and the quiet. Yoga classes where I consciously refused to compete for the bendiest hamstrings, focusing instead on my breath and my own body, exactly as it was. I unfollowed every influencer who preached, forgive and forget, because my nervous system needed to remember, not to hold on to resentment, but to learn from the past, to not reboot the cycle of self-betrayal. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the shrill, demanding voice of the peach yogurt incident, and all the other whispers, began to lose decibels. It wasn't gone entirely, but it was fading, becoming a distant echo rather than a constant, suffocating scream. And then, into this carefully constructed, somewhat fragile new world, walked Sam. Our first date was gloriously, awkwardly normal. We split a veggie burger that was far too big and laughed, genuinely, about how impossible it is to eat one gracefully without looking like a toddler. It was easy. It was light. It was different. On our second date, he asked if I wanted to ride the Ferris wheel at a local carnival. My stomach immediately clenched. My fear of heights, usually a private anxiety, felt too vulnerable to share. But something in his open, kind eyes made me take a breath. Actually, I admitted, I'm terrified of heights. He paused, not with pity, not with a challenge, but with a gentle smile. No problem, he said, how about I win you a giant stuffed sloth instead? And he did. A huge, goofy sloth, one with 3 expertly aimed basketball throws, which I still have. It was an act of quiet, unassuming kindness, a respect for my boundaries without making me feel like a burden. The third date was where my old patterns tried to stage a full-blown coup. We were walking past a construction site when a door slammed shut with a startling bang. I flinched, visibly, my shoulders hunching up to my ears, a familiar wave of anxiety washing over me. Without thinking, I blurted it out. Sometimes I still flinch if a door slams because my ex used silence as punishment. Like, he'd just walk out and slam the door and not come back for hours, and I'd just sit there, terrified. The words hung in the air, raw and exposed. I braced myself for the usual reactions, pity, awkwardness, maybe even a subtle hint that I was too much. Instead, Sam stopped walking. He turned, met my eyes with an unwavering gaze, and simply said, "Thanks for trusting me with that." No pity, no performative savior complex, no attempt to fix me. Just pure, unadulterated respect and acknowledgement. It was a revolutionary response that cracked open something deep inside me. In those early days, this new kind of safety felt eerily like boredom. My nervous system, accustomed to the constant cortisol drip of drama and uncertainty, was in withdrawal. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the mask to slip, for the inevitable disappointment. But Sam only kicked off his sneakers to cuddle on the couch. I'd text, "Hey, I might be a little late, traffic's wild," and instead of an interrogation or a guilt trip, I'd get, "No worries, drive safe. See you when you get here." It was so normal. So utterly devoid of drama or manipulation. I paced my apartment, whispering to myself, healthy love feels quiet. It was a profound adjustment. My girlfriend, who had witnessed my previous relationship train wreck, just laughed when I explained my discomfort with the calm. "Honey," she said, "you're detoxing drama. It's supposed to feel weird at first, like getting off a roller coaster and onto solid ground." And she was absolutely right. The calm was a new sensation, a profound healing, and slowly, I started to embrace the quiet, steady rhythm of a love that felt like a safe harbor instead of a turbulent storm. You know you're truly healing when your biggest triggers, the things that used to send you spiraling, actually become your favorite proof of progress. It's like a little internal victory dance. I remember one evening, Sam cooked salmon for dinner. My ex, bless his heart, despised fish. Old me would have been instantly on edge, inhaling every breadcrumb of potential criticism, waiting for the inevitable, what's that smell, or, you know I don't like that. But new me? New me simply looked at the perfectly flaky salmon, smiled, and said, "Oh, I adore salmon. Thank you so much for making dinner." He smiled back, a genuine, easy smile, and guess what? Nothing exploded. The house didn't burn down. The relationship didn't crumble. It was just dinner. A delicious, peaceful dinner. Another time, Sam left his phone face down on my kitchen counter. Old me? Oh, old me would have been plotting an Ocean's 8-level surveillance operation. My mind would have conjured up a dozen nefarious reasons why the screen was hidden, why he was being secretive, why I needed to peek. New me, however, noticed it, shrugged, and kept whisking pancake batter. It was a conscious choice, a moment of internal triumph. Turns out, his battery was dying, and the charger was on that side of the counter. Revolutionary concept, right? The simplest, most logical explanation, completely devoid of drama. It was a profound realization that my default assumption didn't have to be suspicion, it could be trust. But let's keep it 100, triggers still gate crash the party. Healing isn't a one and done deal. Just last month, Sam and I hit a minor roadblock. I was so excited to introduce him to my coworkers at an after-work get-together, but he'd already promised to help his sister move that same evening. Cue the familiar spiral. He's ashamed of me, he's hiding me, He's choosing his family over me. Here comes the highlight reel of every time my ex dismissed my needs. The old panic, the cold knot in my stomach, started to tighten its grip. The difference now, though, is that I have a pause button. It's not always easy to hit, but it's there. Instead of lashing out or retreating into a silent, resentful sulk, I took a deep breath. "Hey," I said, my voice a little shaky, "I'm noticing some abandonment panic right now. Can we just table this conversation for 20 minutes while I go breathe and walk the dog?" Sam, without a flicker of judgment, met my eyes. "Absolutely," he said, "take all the time you need. I'll be here." So I walked the dog around the block, twice, feeling the cool air on my face, consciously trying to ground myself. I came back, still a little shaky, but clear-headed enough to talk. We talked it through, I explained my trigger, he reiterated his commitment to helping his sister and his genuine desire to meet my coworkers, and we rescheduled our brunch. End of apocalypse. No drama, no accusations, just understanding and a proactive solution. It was a testament to how far we'd both come, individually and as a couple, in navigating the messy, beautiful reality of a healthy relationship. Alright, let's get real. If you're on this journey, or even just thinking about starting it, here are some hard-won truths. No filter, no fluff. Asterisk, you can't skip the ugly middle phase. Sorry, TikTok. Seriously, those perfectly curated, glow-up videos? They're missing about 90% of the snot-nosed crying, the self-doubt, the desperate Google searches, and the moments you feel like you're taking 3 steps back for every one forward. Healing is not linear. It's a messy, winding path with detours, potholes, and occasional faceplants. Embrace the mess, because that's where the real transformation happens. Trying to bypass it just means you'll drag that baggage into your next situation. Asterisk, your ex's voice is not a prophecy, it's a recording, asterisk. And recordings can be deleted, or at the very least, overwritten. Every time you consciously choose to do something they told you couldn't, every time you trust your own judgment when they tried to invalidate it, every time you speak your truth when they silenced you, you're hitting delete. It's not about grand gestures, it's about small, daily actions that prove that old tape wrong. You are enough. You are capable. You are lovable. Asterisk, boundaries are not ultimatums, they're filters for the life you want. This was a huge one for me. I used to think boundaries meant being mean or demanding. But they're not about controlling other people, they're about protecting your peace and your energy. They're saying, this is what I need to feel safe and respected, not, do this or else. They filter out the disrespect and invite in the genuine connection. Learning to articulate them, calmly and clearly, is a superpower. Asterisk, if you still view relationships as a courtroom where you must argue your worth, you're not ready for a new one. Court adjourned, go heal. Seriously. If you're constantly trying to prove your value, to justify your existence, to win an invisible case against an imaginary prosecutor, you're not in a partnership. You're in a battle. And you deserve to lay down your sword and find a love where your worth is simply assumed, not debated. Asterisk, therapy is expensive, staying stuck is costlier. Yes, therapy is an investment. A significant one for many of us. But the cost of not healing? The endless cycles of insecurity, the missed opportunities, the emotional toll on your body and mind, the relationships you sabotage because you haven't done the work. That, my friend, is a debt that will haunt you for a lifetime. Prioritize your mental health. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. Asterisk, love feels like safety more than it feels like fireworks. And let's be honest, fireworks are usually explosions, right? The intense, dramatic highs and lows that we often mistake for passion are often just trauma repeating itself. True, healthy love isn't about constant adrenaline rushes. It's about a quiet, steady sense of belonging, trust, and predictability. It's the comfort of knowing you're safe to be exactly who you are, flaws and all. It's the floor under your feet, not the dizzying heights of a burning fuse. Asterisk, stop calling your anxieties cute quirks. Asterisk, name them, own them, manage them. Minimizing your struggles as just how I am, or my adorable neuroses, might feel comforting in the short term, but it prevents you from actually addressing them. Your anxiety isn't cute, it's a signal. Listen to it, understand it, and then develop strategies to soothe it, rather than just shrugging it off. A partner can support your healing, but they can't do the rehab for you. No one else can lift those emotional reps. Sam is amazing, but he didn't heal me. He created a safe space for me to do my own healing. The work, the processing, the uncomfortable introspection, that's on you. A healthy partner walks beside you, offering encouragement and a steady hand, but they don't carry you. Secure people aren't boring, they're consistent. Normalize that. We've been fed this Hollywood narrative that passionate love must involve drama, grand gestures, and a constant push and pull. But consistent kindness, reliable communication, and emotional stability? That's the real sexy stuff. It allows you to relax, to thrive, to build something real. Boring? No, it's liberating. You're not behind. You're not late. You're not too broken. You're just human, and humans heal every single day. Your timeline is your own. There's no finish line, no race to win. Every step you take towards self-awareness, self-compassion, and self-love is progress. Be patient with yourself. You are resilient, even when you don't feel like it. If any part of this felt like I snuck a GoPro into your diary, if a little light bulb went off in your head, then please, tap that like button. It tells the algorithm that someone else out there needs to hear this, that they're not hopeless, that healing is absolutely possible. And I want you to drop a comment below. What's the one line your ex installed in your head that you were ready to uninstall, for good? I read every single one of your comments, and sometimes, just sometimes, I even reply with the gif of a sloth giving a high five because every step of healing deserves a little celebration. Let's build this community of quiet strength together. 6 months ago, a subscriber left a comment that really stuck with me. She wrote, "I'm 42 and starting over, feels embarrassing." Her words resonated so deeply, that feeling of being behind, of having to rebuild when everyone else seems to have their lives perfectly figured out. But guess what? That same subscriber recently texted me photos from her solo trip to Portugal, beaming, holding a pastel de nata, completely unburdened by that old shame. She's not just starting over, she's soaring. Another viewer shared my video in her group chat, and within a week, 3 of her friends had booked joint therapy sessions, creating their own little support network. Healing, it turns out, is incredibly contagious, far more potent than any virus we've weathered lately. When one of us dares to be vulnerable, to share our story, it gives others permission to do the same. It creates a ripple effect of courage and connection. So, if your brain, with its old, familiar programming, spits out that cruel lie, you're the exception, you'll never feel safe, you'll always be broken, remember this. Thousands of strangers, just like you, are out there, quietly, bravely rehearsing new neural pathways. We're challenging old beliefs, learning new emotional languages, and building lives rooted in self-respect. The group chat is open, the community is here, and you are absolutely, unequivocally, invited. You are not alone in this. Your journey, no matter how unique it feels, connects you to a vast network of resilience. I no longer set that dreadful 11:15 a.m. alarm. That particular brand of dread has been replaced by something far more delightful. Instead, my phone buzzes with Sam's good morning meme, usually featuring some goofy animal doing something ridiculous overnight. Spoiler alert, it's almost always a raccoon. I wake up, stretch, and as the morning light fills the room, I realize the space inside my chest, the one that used to feel like a hollow, echoing chamber, now feels like a warm, inviting home. A home I actually want to live in. My ex once told me, with that dismissive tone he perfected, that love was a reward. A reward for being less, for shrinking myself, for fitting into his narrow, suffocating expectations. Today, I know the truth. Love isn't a reward, it's the floor under my feet. Sometimes it's a little scuffed, sometimes it needs a good cleaning, but it's always, always solid. It's the foundation upon which I can build my life, confident and secure. If you're stuck in the before, if those whispers are still echoing in your ears, hear this. Really hear it. Your insecurities are scars, not tattoos. They are marks of battles fought and survived, not permanent stains on your soul. They fade. They soften. And one day, you'll catch a glimpse of yourself, truly happy, truly at peace, and you'll realize you've forgotten to check if they're still visible. You'll simply be living, fully and freely. So here's to shutting off those awful alarms. Here's to peach yogurt enjoyed without a single shred of shame. Here's to partners who understand that sometimes, a stuffed sloth is infinitely more comforting than a terrifying Ferris wheel. And here's to you, yes, you who will someday, unexpectedly, text a friend and realize, with a quiet, profound joy, I can't remember the last time I flinched. Safe, loved, and absolutely certain of your own magnificent worth. That's the after, and it's waiting for you, with the light on.